Я буду говорить about web application performance from user perspective. It's a quite interesting subject. It gains a lot of attention recently across the industry. We have a few books about it, we have several blogs, several articles, and even there is a dedicated conference that actually discusses this subject. So I think it's something important that we should incorporate in our development cycle, and this is something that I'm going to discuss today for you. Okay, so initially I will discuss shortly why performance is important in general. Then we will move to some tips for improving web page performance. And next we're going to discuss some quite important metrics and the ways how we can measure user perspective. Okay, so why performance matters? Some of you may think that performance is a thing that huge companies should worry about. They have thousands of customers, so it's valuable for them to increase performance. And actually, big players like Google, Amazon, Walmart, they publish some studies that shows that gain in performance give them significant increase in profits, a few $1,000s per day, for example, for Amazon. So you may think, okay, those big companies has some goals in improving performance, but my company delivers application for much smaller number of clients, so maybe performance doesn't matter. So here are our customers. I work for a GFT, which is a company that do applications for financial services. And here are our users. And sometimes we do application for only 10 users, but those users are very important, and it's what is more important, those users are very busy and they are very impatient, so we don't want to wait for our application to respond slowly. So performance is something that we should all care about, and we should test all our application and at least know how fast they can deliver the content to our users. So what we can do to easily improve performance of our website. So here are some simple rules. Those rules were published a few years ago on Yahoo developer website. Later on, Steve Souders, who's the main author of those rules, published a book, High Performance Website. And this is like those rules should be like initial checks for our application. Is it healthy enough to deliver content fast to our users? So let's look at just a few of those rules, just to give you an idea of what those rules are discussing. And we will later on discuss how to implement some changes. So the first rule told us to gzip the content. So actually it told us that we should compress the content that is delivered by our web server. And to do this, we need to switch one parameter in our web application servers. And just doing this, we can gain significant improvements in performance. The next two rules are quite combined together. We need to put style sheet at the top and JavaScript at the bottom. And who knows why we should do this? Sorry? Yes, exactly. So when browser fed JavaScript code, it stopped rendering and it stopped fetching additional resources. Browser at that point want to execute JavaScript, so all the other actions are stopped. And we want to defer this moment until the very last phase of page load time. So that's why we put JavaScript at the bottom. We put CSS at the top, so browser knows how to render the website, and in this way we can speed up this process as well. So the next rules is telling us that we should minimize number of HTTP requests. Quite obvious, Still, the bandwidth is kind of limiting factor for our websites. So we should limit the number of data we will send through the network. And the same applies to the next rules. And actually, to implement this in your applications, you need to add just 2 simple tools, and this will be done automatically. So you see that the rules are quite simple, and it's very easy to implement them in your projects and get significant improvements in the performance. And of course, our applications are not so simple. They have several pages. Even those rules are quite simple. We don't want to look at the code of our websites. We want some tools that will do this for us. And here you can see 2 examples. The first tool is called YSlow. And this is a tool created by Steve Souders, the same guy who created the book. This tool was also used at Yahoo. And this tool actually checks our website if it complies to the rules we mentioned before. So it comes as a Chrome plugin, and it comes as a command line JavaScript application, and you can easily execute it and get results. You can see the results for each rule, and you have here the general score, and you can monitor this, and you can implement those checks in your continuous integration environment and see how performance, how the structure of the website is changing, and also do some improvements. Google PageSpeed Insight is another tool that you can use almost for the same purpose. What Google PageSpeed Insight can do for you, it can also verify how your web page will look in the mobile devices. And Google provides some additional set of rules for this environment. And Google also gives you quite precise guidelines when to search for tools, what should be improved, and how you should, for example, get additional performance boosts out of your website. So it's good to start with those tools and check how your website conforms to the rules we discussed earlier. So those are kind of static checks, like a static code analysis checks. But let's move to the performance of the web applications. So traditionally, when we're thinking about performance tests, we are thinking about tools like JMeter, Gatling, or LoadRunner. And statistics provided by those tools give us results as if page look something like similar to the example here. So we are concentrated mostly on resources, mostly on HTML documents, and what we are measuring is download time, which in this example is approximately 68 milliseconds. But even in this example, you can see that browser needs approximately 300 milliseconds to process this web page. So there is a huge difference between download time and the time that browser needs to process and display the web page. So knowing this could lead us to the conclusion that to measure real user perspective, we actually should use the real browser. Okay? Because this is the same page, but it looks completely different. And you can see that browser downloads additional resources, and finally it also downloads the image, and it took him approximately 7.5 seconds to display the page. So this is a huge difference between 68 milliseconds and more than 7 seconds. And we can think, okay, we need to use a browser, it's quite simple, there are here some statistics, so we can actually conclude the presentation and we know what to do. But it's not so simple, because if you do some measurements in your test lab and you provide the statistics, what we are doing is providing statistics as if user was sitting in your test lab using your test equipment. It means browser, computer, network connection, and etc. So it might be not so valuable for a client. You can end up in a situation that you provide some results to your customer, and during UAT, the customer will measure the page load time as well, and he will have completely different results. So we need to be aware about this, and during requirements definition, we need to somehow inform our client that there might be some differences about what we're gonna measure and what he can perceive. And I will later show you also how we can solve this problem and how we can discuss with the client's test requirements for test environment. And another problem is that we actually don't know what those numbers means, and we don't know actually what we are going to report. So let's look at those numbers and try to find out what does it mean, what those numbers means for end user. So in general, most developer tools report to us two times. The first time, the blue line, which is not visible here, but you can see it in your browser, is a time of DOM content loaded event. And the second line, the red one, is the time for DOM complete event. Okay? Okay, that's valuable information, but what does it mean for end user? Okay, so in a minute, I'm gonna play the movie when I will reload this website, and when DOM content loaded event is fired, you will see here the statement done. And later on, when onload event is fired, you will see statement done in the right part as well, and you will see the difference. Okay, so the page is reloaded, and we see that DOM content loaded event is done. And we need to wait a couple of seconds for done for onload event. And the difference is more than 7 seconds. So who can tell us something more about those events? Who of you will be able to explain us what those events means for a user? All right, we have a guy over there.
I assume it was a browser rendering the image, and it took some time. Something else should be present as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. More or less, yes. For browser to be able to render all the stuff that is on the website, we need to have all the resources. So we need to wait for all the images, CSS files, and additional resources to be downloaded, and then we can fire onload event because everything is done. We can fire DOM content loaded event much earlier. This event is fired when the main HTML document is downloaded, and browser created the DOM tree and is kind of ready for rendering the text content of the website, but it not necessarily means that the text content on the website is visible. Actually, rendering could start at any point here. So telling about the metric that will tell us when the rendering starts is quite difficult. But DOM content loaded is kind of approximation when rendering is starting. Okay, so now we understand those events. So we would like to capture them and do some automation around it, and, for example, report this in our tests. And we can quite easily do this using performance timing API, which is available in all browsers. We need to fetch the reference to timing object, and then you can find the references to all the events that I mentioned on the previous slides. And here I just calculate the times for navigation start, for DOM interactive event, DOM content loaded event, and DOM completed. And you can put this information into the logs or export it to some other tools. Okay, and we might think that, okay, that's enough information to report user experience, but actually it's not true. So imagine that you have a home page, and then after the home page is loaded, you would like to present some pop-up asking user, for example, to subscribe to your email channel or whatever. So how it is constructed is quite simple. When onload event is fired, we download additional resources, and then we start rendering. And since onload event was fired, we can't use the previous method to measure the performance of such website. So we need something more, and we have for this resource timing API. And this timing API is able to get the timestamps and measurements for each resource that is downloaded during page load time, and then in a very similar way we can report it during JavaScript, using JavaScript code, and send it to one of our tools. And here is the way we can do this. Again, we use performance object, we get entities by type, we use resource type, and then we can iterate over all resources that are on the website and get all information that you can see here for each resource that was downloaded by our web browser. So that's the next step, and this can significantly improve the measurements that we can provide to our client. But is it all that we can do? Well, sometimes we need something more. So here you can see the screenshot from Webpage test, one of the quite famous tool for measuring web performance. And you can see here so-called film strip that will show you how page looks after a certain time after navigation started. So you can see here that after 4 seconds, well, we see Brad and Angelina, and we see some red stuff over there. There is nothing meaningful. After next second, well, we get some information about Brad, again, just a picture. And after another second, we notice that Brad is single. Well, that's something valuable. And actually, some of you might just stop watching at this site at this moment and just call to her friends and asking, hey, do you know that Brad is single? I just saw it on the website. So it looks like maybe this content, the rest of the website, is not very important for us. And indeed, there are situations and there are clients who care about displaying certain part of the website, and they don't care about displaying